It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
To infinity and beyond!
Get off, Napoleon. Make yourself a dang quesadilla.
I know Kung Fu.
This is one doodle that can't be undid, Holmes Gillett.
And my axe.
This should be open because it's civil rights. This is the 90s.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
1.21 gigawatts!
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
Gucci.
Hello, and welcome to what I'm tentatively calling the KendallCast Kids Table, because it's smaller than the round table. I'm Kendall, and with me is Ian.
Hey guys, it's like Kitchen Finks all over again.
Yes, it is. Yes, this is for those who have not been following my career with great interest. Ian is the original podcast co-host from our original Magic the Gathering Kitchen Finks podcast in like 20. Do we start in like 2013?
I prefer not to think about it too much, how long ago it was.
Maybe might have been 2012. Like the only thing that's depressing about it is that like if we were still making episodes of that show, we would be like one of the longest running podcasts on the internet.
Yeah.
But like we'd have like hundreds and hundreds of episodes. But I kind of feel like we said everything we had to say in those 75 episodes of
and we kind of both stopped. Yeah, we both stopped playing the game.
Yeah.
And then continued.
Yes, we stopped playing. Yeah, yes. It's definitely a thing when you podcast about a hobby. Sometimes podcasting becomes the hobby, and then you don't spend as much time with the hobby. I struggle with that with Star Wars cards, and I think a lot of and other people who, yeah. But it was a big. I felt like it was a big thing with Magic. Like people would have Magic podcasts, and then they would stop. They would stop playing Magic, and then still have a podcast for a year after that. They'd be like, "Oh, I play Commander." That was the. But anyway, we're not talking about Magic. We are talking because it came up in the so first of all, what is the Kids Table? The Kids Table is we've had more and more scheduling issues with the KendallCast Movie Roundtable. So I suggested and roped Ian into helping with it, basically doing sort of mini episodes on the months that we that our schedules just don't line up. That way, we put in something out better than nothing. But this is going to be more than better than nothing. We are talking about season 5, episode 2 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, titled Darmok. It did come up in our discussion of Arrival, and I was kind of hoping that either Nick or Jeff would do this with me. So that
apparently, like, neither of them have even seen The Next Generation. Like, I don't know who these people are or how they can not have seen The Next Generation, but it's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, like first of all, they grew up with us. And right. I mean, even if you haven't seen every episode of Next Generation, like we grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, and I don't know. We'll have to watch like First Contact or something and really get in depth. Because I also thought that Nick's dad was like a Trekkie, but I could be wrong on that. But anyway, yeah. So what is your history with Star Trek, Ian?
Well, it was kind of, as shows were at the time. It was just kind of something that was on. We had some random episodes here and there. To this date, I don't think I have watched The Next Generation from start to end sequentially. So it is quite possible that there is an episode or two that I have not seen. But I've I've seen at least the vast majority of it. I watched the original series, kind of as reruns on TV Land or wherever it was that you could find the
Sci-Fi Channel
reruns
or
of
whatever.
or Sci-Fi. And then a few years ago, I watched DS9 all the way through, and I love DS9. Um, Debating
So
whether I like the Next Generation or DS9 better is hard.
I've actually Deep Space Nine. I have not watched all the way through. I am just at the Cisco just shaved his head in my watch, so it's like just and they had and Worf just joined the crew and stuff.
Mhm.
So I think that's
It
like
gets
a lot of
better.
people say
It gets
that's
better at that point, in the later seasons. But I don't think like its first 3 seasons weren't as rough as Next Generation's first 3, for
right.
example.
Well, Next Generation's first season, I think Next Generation picks
First
up
2.
pretty quickly.
I would say first 2.
Yeah,
Second season, you have like Dr. Pulaski and.
Oh yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
well, maybe, yeah. You might be right. But I think that I like the Next Gen cast better than the Deep Space Nine cast. I mean, so yeah, like I mean, we grew up. There were lots of Friday nights in high school where I would watch Spike TV. Just watch 5 episodes of Next Generation. A few years ago, it's probably close to 10 years ago now, I found a really good Star Trek podcast called Mission Log that's actually like affiliated with the Roddenberry estate and stuff. And it's still to this day one of the best like rewatch podcasts that I've ever listened to. And that really helped me get through the original series, which is really good, but like some of the episodes are a little slow. And so it was like kind of nice to have like watch an episode and then listen to a podcast kind of analyzing it a little bit, and then and in a way that was good, because most of the time I don't like that kind of stuff. But
A lot of some of the standout episodes of the original series are like they really stick with me. Excellent television. But yeah, you're right. It's very uneven.
Yeah, it's kind of there's some really rough episodes. There's some really good episodes. It also like when I was watching it was when we were just starting to get a lot of like Netflix bingey like tell one story in a season. And so at that time in particular, watching standalone episodic television was like a little bit like it was hard to maintain momentum. But anyway, so then I watched that, and I actually also watched all the way through Next Generation sort of right after that. So I have seen almost every episode of Next Generation. There were a few Lwaxana Troy episodes that I skipped intentionally.
Well, she's in DS9 as well. You may not have gotten to those episodes.
Yeah.
But don't worry, she's back.
Yeah, well. But she also might not annoy me as much as she did then, but anyway, but I love all the movies. The post kind of the modern Star Trek has not resonated with me as much, except for Strange New Worlds. I think Strange New Worlds is amazing. But Picard and Discovery did not do it for me, because they're kind of everything. I feel like they're everything with Star Trek. But anyway,
I watched part of the first season of Picard, and then I'm like, wow, this is bad. I'm out.
Yeah. Picard was rough.
Meanwhile, this is the example. So cutting into Darmok here, right?
Yeah.
Like here's a Picard episode of the Next Generation, which is like one of the great Picard episodes, up there with like Inner Light or like Chain of Command. There are 4 lights. Like one of those great Picard episodes, in my opinion.
I saw a meme for the Chain of Command episode, and the where the Cardassian had glasses on, and he said, "Oh crap, there were only 4 lights." But this is a classic episode. it's very like, it's actually, I would say, very original series. In some ways it's very original series. In other ways it's distinctly not original series, because when Captain Kirk gets sent to a planet with a strange alien in I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one with the
Yeah,
Gorn.
the Gorm. Yeah, the
Um,
Gorn episode. Yeah.
Yeah, they do fight. um, and he is willing to fight them.
Yeah. In fact,
But
I feel like this is a deliberate play on that,
mhm,
because
right.
again, like, he gets whisked down there in mysterious circumstances. The crew has this whole story about like trying to figure out what's going on. They have to assume, like, despite a lack of previous hostile intentions from these particular group of aliens, they kind of have to assume that because of their inability to communicate, they have to assume that this is some kind of hostile encounter. And then with the sensors, they can see like the alien approaching them, and like they're trying to figure this whole thing out. But they use the opportunity in this episode to tell a different story about, Picard is not Kirk. He's not going to fight this guy, and
Mhm.
these aliens aren't the Gorns either. It's a much more like optimistic, peaceful contact, um, which is much more in line with the TNG message.
Mm-hmm. It also, something else that was interesting to me was that in a lot of ways, so in a lot of Star Trek episodes, it is the premise is that the Enterprise, whichever Enterprise it is, runs into an alien race, and it's basically 100% on the protagonists to bend over backwards and accommodate. If they do one thing wrong, then they're destroying this whole diplomatic situation. And it's and meanwhile you have the ones that they should an alien race that's like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And you and sort of, sort of, even when they're trying to be a diplomatic story or whatever, like, you can tell who's the good guys and who's the bad guys is pretty clear usually. In this one, it's like it almost felt like were the humans were like the tables were turned. The humans were the ones that were maybe being a little bit more aggressive and everything.
Yeah, I mean, they were just kind of practicing. They were suspicious, and they were practicing kind of proper operational security around the safety of their captain,
Mhm.
right? But still, like, the aliens in this case had no ill intention for them,
Right,
and
right.
it was really just an attempt to help these two captains come together and establish peaceful relations.
Right. Yeah, I really like that. Also, so a couple of like parallels to Arrival. So Hawkeye would have been happy because these guys did use, I mean, they didn't specifically say Fibonacci, but they did use like a mathematical pattern to like
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good
establish the
point.
thing.
To get
So
attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get attention. And I'll also say that, well, first of all, like there's the other, I forget what the name of the other alien race, of the alien race is. Um, they
It's like
they should have
Tamarians
said,
or something.
yeah, something like that. But they should have said, well, let's teach them how to say hello. You know, like, give them
Children of Tamar.
children of Tamar. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, like they should have. It's like, it's a shame they didn't have a linguist with them. Um, but
Yeah. So yeah, as far as their language itself, so Arrival is very much like a scientific. Here's some linguists, and we're gonna do the slow scientific process of learning how to communicate, how to establish common language, how to do all this stuff. This tells us a very different sort of story, but also because like the alien language in this episode doesn't really make sense. Like,
mhm.
how can you really? So it's all based on their legends, their myths, and they just share, in metaphors for the people and places depicted in those myths. But how can you really like learn stories if you don't have like a narrative language outside of just referring to other stories? Or
Mhm.
like, how do they ask
Mhm.
questions of each other? How do they like teach each
Right.
other things? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, and that's actually something that Arrival kind of helped. Having watched Arrival, like this idea that maybe, and I mean, I think this is kind of the point of the episode, but like it's all also the episode is meant to be taken as a metaphor. But it's like Arrival, they're like, we don't know that they even have a concept of a weapon. We can't assume that that their civilization has any of these concepts. I was thinking about it and I was like, maybe they just like watch TV, like they see like a video version of the story
Sure.
or
Just to kind of see.
pictures
I
or
do. I
something
did notice
like
though that
that.
the first thing that they do when they get down there is the Tamarian give weapon to Picard, and Picard
Mhm.
doesn't want it. Give weapon.
Yeah, use weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um and but I think but I mean the thing is it's like just it's so hard to communicate when you're just thinking it, when your brain works a completely different way, and it doesn't matter, like somebody smarter than you or I might be able to explain the plot, whatever, but it's like it works because it works. Now my little bit of an issue with it is that they just kept saying the same three things over and over again. Like,
Yeah.
Darmok and Gelada Tanagra, like,
Right.
like you just
But
keep saying the
granted,
same thing over
yeah.
and
Now, granted, you might try that if you're trying to establish basic communication.
right,
Reusing phrases might help
reusing the same
get
phrases.
across
Yeah,
their meaning.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Um,
But really, the really satisfying thing about this episode to me is like you learn along with Picard how to kind of understand what the captain
mhm,
is saying. Um,
right.
and then at the end, he has that conversation to like cease the hostilities, and then they make peace and they go their separate ways with the first mate back in space.
Mhm,
And like you also are able to follow both sides of the conversation just from what you've picked up over the course of the 45-minute episode.
right, right.
So I think that's really satisfying to kind of like bring the viewer along with Picard on this journey and kind of resolve it in a
Mhm,
satisfying way.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I like about it is it didn't tie things up in like a neat bow. Like before they were just, the various times, it's like we couldn't understand them and our universal translators doesn't work or whatever. Um which of course speaks to like, why didn't the universal translator work if the if Darmok and Gelada Tanagra has a meaning, then there's got to be I mean, I guess
But I mean, it turned their language into English.
that's yeah, that's true. That's true. It did turn it just I guess like, but it's like how does the universal translator know what the proper nouns are
Right.
and therefore not translate those proper nouns?
Yeah.
That's
Don't think about it too much.
no. I mean, like, again, this is not meant to be taken like 100% literal, and also it's like the universal translator doesn't make any sense either. So,
Right. Right.
um,
It's kind of not the point. The point is, the story that we're telling
yeah.
about learning to
I mean,
communicate with people.
arguably, you could say the universal translator works for languages from a human perspective. It's like another thing that Arrival's concept of language not even being like one word is one word and the different images mean different things, and everything, like all that stuff that we kind of cover in Arrival kind of applies here too. Like it only works in to the extent that it works. Like it's not like a magical, it's not the Babelfish that, it doesn't necessarily read brainwaves or whatever. It's actually looking for patterns, or maybe it has I don't know if it, I mean, I assume that there's more to it than like the universal translator, that there's more to it than just having a database. Like it's not like C3PO, like where he just has like a database of it. Like I assume the universal translator does a little bit more, but who knows? Yeah. But I like that. Yeah, I like that it ends, and it's not a neat. It's not a neat. Like they don't immediately establish diplomatic relations.
Yeah, in a way that's something that Arrival actually failed at. Like we discussed during our cast, like it kind of just and now everything is perfect. All of the nations of Earth united in peace and happiness forever to study this language. The end.
So if you remember, I said, like, I did my proposed ending for Arrival where they fail and the aliens leave, and Louise is trying to communicate, trying to salvage what she can from what we learned from the aliens and everything. When I was editing the episode, I was like, that's not how the movie ended. I forgot it again and rewrote the ending in my head. That's what it was. But yeah, I really like. But it also wasn't a failure. It was just that, like, this is the best that you can do with two people on a planet. Two guys alone on a planet. Two ships passing in the night or whatever. Like the best we could do is to kind of come together to create a story which is important to their to their past and everything, and then they'll share that, and people will study, we'll do a case study on that, and down the line they'll send an actual linguist to meet with them, and it's just, but it's all, and I will say though, like you mentioned, like how would it work learning it? It's also like, how would you get, if you don't have a concept of like hello and a concept, how would you get so advanced? Like how would your tech, as a civilization, if you were, because there is like, I mean, the episode was about humans learning to communicate with this strange language with this strange alien, but the opposite didn't really happen. I mean, like he has Picard tell him the story of Gilgamesh, but again, he didn't learn to say hello. The only time we hear that character's name is at the very end when he says Picard and whoever at whatever planet.
Right. And like it seems like the alien captain sort of understood the story about Gilgamesh, but it's hard to say like how he understood the story.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I almost wonder if they have like a language, but it's just like they would never even think to use it that way. Or maybe they have maybe they have a written language that's like more traditional or something. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about, and that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah, so at this point they just have to like learn all of the lore and all this stuff. But how do you learn the lore? I don't know.
Yeah,
I liked how like so this was in like 93, 94 that this episode was written. This is way pre Google. And you know that scene where like Data and Troy are like talking to the computer trying to figure out who Darmok is, and they like try to, it's like they Googled just one word and then expect the computer to tell them, and then they Google Tanagra and then they think to cross-reference them. I'm like, dude, you don't just Google one word.
Yeah, it's
you
like
Google multiple words.
Yeah, it's like the old episodes of Buffy where they go to like generic search engine and they type in vampires. Yeah. I will say I was surprised that they didn't try cross rep like or no, I guess they did eventually try Googling Darmok and Jalad
And Tanagra.
no, Darmok and Tanagra.
Right.
I don't think they Googled Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Right. I mean, I feel like if the computer knows who Darmok is and what Tanagra is, then you start asking more questions. You start asking all of the things that they've referenced so far, that you've heard them say, and you start to build the narrative, and you could get a lot farther than they actually did. But
yeah.
But it served the narrative of the story for them to remain suspicious and unable to communicate.
Well, and they just were not. I mean, again, they were just not thinking that way. They were just not thinking that way, and that's the point. Is that you have to think differently. It's going to be more than just. It's going to be more than just this word means this word and this word means this word. Like I loved that it was a very like Arrival scene where at the very beginning he's like, we would like to establish trade relations, perhaps a mutually beneficial treaty. It's like he goes right to it. Like they're like, it's like the scene where he's like, what does this mean? And he plays the recording of the alien going, like I don't know. It was real interesting. I do feel like when I watched it the first time, I thought there was some kind. I actually was like defaulting to what Worf was thinking about, that they wanted to fight. Because he's got the knife and he's trying to share the knife.
It's a perfectly reasonable interpretation.
Yeah.
And right away, like early on in the episode, Worf makes some suggestion that maybe they're hostile, and Picard says, I appreciate your prudence, Mr. Worf. Of course, it's a meme that everyone ignores what Worf says all the time, but at least Picard acknowledged, and Riker did later as well, that Worf's interpretation of events in this episode was reasonable, even if he was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's hard because like I don't know, it's hard to watch it without the hindsight thing.
Right.
I definitely I could tell that, like I think when I watched it initially, again, I thought of it as the going into the assumption of this is going to be the humans are right Star Trek episode, where they get beamed down for this contest of champions or whatever, and then Picard refuses to fight. Maybe Picard saves him from the weird monster guy, and then that creates a whatever. But this episode was about subverting those expectations. So like, even if I'm thinking that I'm outsmarting the show still outsmarts me. And that's why that's why Next Generation is like the greatest thing ever. And I mean, this is season 5. I mean, I don't think Next Generation is a show that I don't think, like a lot of shows like the last couple seasons get, kind of run out of steam. I feel like they could have, I mean, they did keep going with the Next Generation for movies. Now, granted, the last 2 movies weren't that great, but
and it didn't run out of steam. The last season was excellent. All good things was good stuff to end it off. Yeah. They really knew how to end it. And then, of course, a lot of the characters, like there's 3 years of overlap between Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and then Worf and O'Brien go over to Deep Space Nine and kind of carry on. So it's kind of an extension along those lines as well, and there's some continuity between the characters.
Yeah. Now I will say I could never really get into Voyager. So I mean, I guess that's the thing is
I've
that
never watched any of Voyager.
That between Voyager and Insurrection and Nemesis, I guess it did kind of run out of steam eventually. It's just that it was not called a different show. But yeah, good stuff. If you guys haven't watched, I will say, Paramount Plus with commercials sucks. I haven't watched a lot since I switched to Paramount Plus with commercials, but this is the worst. I left the room during a commercial break and came back after the commercial break ended, and I had to rewind it a couple seconds, and it crashed the app, and then I had to watch the commercial break again.
Oof.
So,
yeah, I've cut commercials out of my life, and I don't want to go back. So if your streaming service has ads in it, I'm not watching your streaming service. I'll just do without whatever shows you have on there.
Well, when I watch movies on Paramount Plus with commercials, it just plays a commercial at the beginning, and then I watch the whole movie. But this is the first time I'd watched a TV show, or one with. I may have watched other TV shows that didn't have commercials or whatever, but this one definitely did, and they were not timed correctly.
I was gonna say, at least they could put them at the commercial breaks in the show.
Yeah, but they don't, and it was a mess. It was, and they were close together. I don't know. It was not the easiest watch, and I will have to decide whether to cancel Paramount Plus or to upgrade back to the full one. Paramount Plus has always been the worst of the apps, but they have an interesting library, so I've kind of kept them around.
Kind of all the apps suck, though. I've had lots of problems with the Max, the previously HBO Max. Mm-hmm. It kind of just doesn't do what it is supposed to do as a streaming app.
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with it in the past. But I haven't recently.
I mean, you try to rewind 10 seconds because you missed something, and half the time it goes back to the start of the episode. I'm like, why are you even doing this? Why are you like this?
For a long time, I think they had some server problems because it would take 10 minutes to load a movie or something. But the Disney Plus apps I've had good luck with, and
that's been pretty good.
And Netflix, even though I don't Netflix app, the app is good, but we don't have Netflix anymore.
There's kind of nothing left on it.
I pick stuff up and drop them off. Whatever. It's all good. Honestly, a lot of stuff I just rent because it's because I can watch the thing I want to watch, and then it's $3. And I don't watch a lot of TV. I mostly watch movies. But any final thoughts on Darmok?
I don't think so. I got through everything that I had in my notes.
Yeah, I think I got through everything as well. It's a good episode. It's a good show. Go watch it, people. And we will have the Dune episode hopefully sometime in June. So keep your eye out for that. And until next time, don't be a kitchen fink. Wait, no, that's wrong. We'll see what we think of Dune next time on the KendallCast Movie Roundtable, for real this time. And maybe, I don't know. All right, we'll see you next time. Cool. This podcast is a production of the KendallCast Podcast Network. You can support the show for just $2 a month at patreon.com/KendallCast, or make a direct donation through the PayPal link at kendallcast.ninja. Every little bit helps.